going to do it again. Yesterday, when I started off the playoff series, I started off with what happened that everybody remembers. Now, this game, right down here, Game 6. Before Game 6, the Flyers say to Claude Lemieux, listen, you've got this thing. You come out on the ice for warm-ups, and you have to score on the other team's net. We don't like it. Okay? We, the Flyers, don't like it. So what we'd like for you to do is when you come out on the ice for warm-ups and you want to put it in the net like that, don't. Skate around on your side of the ice. Don't on ours. Warm up. Do your stretches. Do Kegels if you want. Stay away from our net. Don't put the puck in our net. So, Claude Lemieux hears that and goes, all right, who else on this team is a jerk? And Shane Corson goes, I'll be a jerk. And this is what happened. So, there you see. This is, of course, and the camera work is iffy. This is 1987. So there's Glenn Resch, Chico Resch. Not Ron Hextall. Reportedly, Ron Hextall, when he found out this was going on, was locked in the bathroom by coach Mike Keenan, who didn't want him to get thrown out of the game. Okay, so they're leaving. All right, he knows not to be a jerk. Oh, wait, no, he doesn't. Here they come. Corson and Lemieux. What are they doing? Oh, yeah, he scored into our net. Okay, now we're going to have a nice, pleasant discussion with them about it. Now, you'll notice Corson ends up getting mugged. There's some turtling from Claude Lemieux. So some turtling going on while Glenn Resch is dancing with Corson. And some other Canadians are like, hey, what's going on out there? What is going on? Here they come. Here comes everybody else. And it just gets worse from there. So in the description for this video, I will include the footage of that entire brawl. Because it went on for, according to the video's time, about 10 minutes. No officials on the ice. Looks bad. No officials on the ice. I'm envisioning referees and linesmen going, there's some crap going on out there. I'm not going out there. There was a player out there in flip-flops. Not kidding. One of the Flyers in flip-flops. Because they weren't even supposed to be... Like, you have guys going out for warm-ups, but not everybody's ready for warm-ups at the same time. So there's guys out there without jerseys. Dave Brown, who probably had his jersey on and went, I don't need this. I'm going out for a fight. And had a fight with Chris Nyland, because of course he did. That's before this game happens. And they had a game, and the actual penalty minutes in that game... Not that much. Coming out of that incident, the NHL said, okay, that's enough of this crap. And that's when they instituted the really harsh penalties that you see now if you leave the bench to engage in a fight. If you're on the ice and engaging in a fight when it's not game time, that's a suspension. And so all of that comes out of this, where the NHL realized this looks like Slapshot. And it absolutely did, right down to the organist watching this playing the final countdown and the Rocky theme. I'm not kidding. So that is a backdrop. This is the series that I remember as a kid watching and being absolutely baffled by what I was watching. Philadelphia, 46-26-8, had an amazing season with this new kid, Ron Hextall. He stopped Gretzky in his first game. Gretzky said, who the hell are you? And Hextall answered with, who the hell are you? Take that, Mr. Gretzky. They won in round 1 over the New York Rangers in 6. They then in round 2 beat the New York Islanders in 7 to get in and play against Montreal Canadiens. They would lose the finals in the 7-game series against the Oilers. It was a great series against the Oilers. This one, though, I find more interesting because of the footage I just showed you guys. So Montreal, 41-29-10. They're the road team to start this series. They had swept the Boston Bruins in the first round because Boston and Montreal is a bad matchup for Boston. That's right. And then in round 2, they had beat the Quebec Nordiques in 7. So, again, back and forth with the Quebec Nordiques once again. So, game 1 in Philadelphia. Before all of this happens, the Flyers in game 1 Brian Propp scores a power play goal from Crossman and Zezel at 17:51. But a power play then for Montreal. Shane Corson scores from Chelios and Naslund at 19:26. So last minute of the first period, it's tied at 1. Second period, Ryan Walters scores from Peter Svoboda and Claude Lemieux at 18:25. You'll notice I'm not putting a letter in front of Lemieux like I did Alain Lemieux, because we all know Claude Lemieux is a Montreal Canadien at this point. And if you don't, you're probably a lot younger. So yeah, it's 2-1 for Montreal after 2, but in the third period, Ilka Sinisalo scores from Propp and Howe at 5:49. Montreal then gets a goal from Bobby Smith, Robinson and Ludwig with the assists at 7:15. But towards the end of the game, Derek Smith gets on the board. He scores from Knockbauer and Eklund at 16:04. And we go to overtime. In overtime, at 9 minutes and 11 seconds, Sinisalo scores his second goal of the game from Zezel and Shell Samuelson. And that's a 4-3 overtime victory for the Philadelphia Flyers. Hayward, 33 saves on 37 shots in the loss. Hextall, 33 saves on 36 shots. Brian Hayward had taken the starting job away from Patrick Waugh. Now, Patrick Waugh got the sweep over Boston in the first round, but during the second round, Hayward took over the starting job. There were a couple of iffy games for Waugh in there, and Hayward takes over. So, game 2. First period, Bobby Smith scores from Lemieux and Walter at 11 minutes and 38 seconds. That makes it 1-0 Montreal after 1, and Montreal in full control of this game. Skrudland scores from Svoboda and Naslund at 1:43. Now, in the realm of unlikely goal scorers, John Kordic gets on the board next. He scores from Momesso and Corson at 11:23. Oh, there were guys who knew how to fight on both teams. It is then Claude Lemieux that scores from Green and Smith at 15:38. That's a power play goal, and it's 4-0 Montreal after 2 periods. Third period, Philadelphia again at home. They make it interesting. Smith scores from Sinisalo and Zezel at 5:29, and then just past the halfway mark, it's a power play goal for Doug Crossman from Tocchet and Zezel at 10:46. That is Rick Tocchet. So, Philadelphia gets closer. However, at 14:06, it's Carbonneau from Naslund and Gainey. So, Montreal Canadiens extend that lead once again, and they hold on to win at 5-2. Hayward saves 21 out of 23 in the victory. Hextall saves 19 out of 23 in the loss. Game 3, we're in Montreal. Home ice? It doesn't matter. Home ice is not an advantage at all in this series. Not a thing. One home game won in the entire series. Chris Nyland. Yeah, Chris Nyland scores a goal in the first from Momesso and Corson at 4:23. Momesso could drop the gloves too. So this was not a Montreal team that felt as much like the 70s Montreal Canadiens. There wasn't really a Broad Street Bullies feel entirely to this team, but they could drop the gloves if they needed to, and it's part of the reason why these teams irritated each other. We then see a power play goal from Chelios, Smith and Walter at 5:13. For Philly fans who hate Chris Chelios, and there were a lot from back then that did, he has not committed the ultimate crime that he would in 1989 as of yet, where he ran over Brian Propp. He waited 2 more years to do that. So second period, down 2-0. Philadelphia fights back. First, it's Eklund from Propp and Tocchet at 4:29. We then see a power play goal. It's Eklund again from Tukey and Howe. Tim Tukey. Fun name to say. Very fun name to say. That's at 13:21 and ties it up. Third period, it is Rick Tocchet from Pelle Eklund at 8:29. That gives them the lead. Power play for the Montreal Canadiens. They would get the lead back. They tie the game. It's Naslund from Robinson and Chelios at 12:35. We then see Brian Propp score. Tocchet and Ron Sutter with the assists at 16:51. I'm saying Ron Sutter because Rich was in the league at the same time as well, and it was easy to get one mixed up with the other because they're twins. Hextall, 36 saves on 39 shots. I know one played in Pittsburgh, at least at the start. Hextall, 36 saves on 39 shots in the victory. Hayward saved 14 out of 18. So going into the next game, after allowing 4 on 18 shots, Montreal decides, you know what, we're going to go with Patrick Waugh. Right? Patrick Waugh, who won the Stanley Cup in 1986 and won the Conn Smythe, he's relegated to backup duty in the conference final? I don't think so. So Patrick Waugh, first period, Ron Sutter scores from Mellanby and Hextall at 12:14. So Ron Hextall with an assist, Scott Mellanby with one as well. It's 1-0 for Philadelphia. Brian Propp then scores at 1 minute and 18 seconds to make it 2-0 in the second period. Montreal fights back, a power play marker by Naslund. The assist to Svoboda and Robinson on that at 5:45, and then Stefan Richer would tie it up from Robinson and Carbonneau at 13:39. Stefan Richer, kind of a divisive figure when you look at Montreal's history at that point. Eklund would then score, though, to renew that lead from Prop and Crossman at 15:40, and then in the third period, early, Mellanby scores from Ron Sutter at 14 seconds, and that is the last we will see of Patrick Waugh in this series. That's right. Hayward went in. Eklund would score from Tocchet and Crossman at 1:28, so welcome to the game, and there you go. Eklund scores again from Prop and Tocchet at 13:01, and then just before the game's over, to try to make the score somewhat respectable, Chelios scores from Lemieux and Walter at 17:13. That makes your final score 6-3 in favor of the Flyers. Hextall saved 25 out of 28 in the victory. Patrick Waugh saved 16 out of 20. Hayward goes in, saves 5 out of 7, and he would be the starter in the next game. So they go into Philadelphia, and again, if you're the home team in this series, it's probably not going to be a good night for you. Smith, that's Bobby Smith, scores from Walter and Ludwig at 2:28, and then Derek Smith scores for Philadelphia from Zezel and Dave Brown at 12:37. Dave Brown with one of those rare points that he got. He did every now and then get a point in his career, and it was kind of stunning when Brown would do that. He didn't get a whole lot of ice time, Dave Brown. He was more of a 3-4 minutes to a game kind of guy at points during his career. He could play, but he was really there to make sure that other players were bleeding. Power play goal then for Larry Robinson from Smith and Chelios at 14:48. He was very good at making sure other players on the other team were bleeding as well. So it's 2-1 Montreal after one. Second period, Ludwig scores from Robinson and Dahlin at 13:29. Bit of a surprise in that Craig Ludwig, not really a goal scorer, but he gets on the board there. Carbonneau then scores from Naslund and Robinson at 13:48. So that's 2 goals in 19 seconds by Montreal. And they have a decent enough lead at 4-1. It becomes 4-2 when Mellanby scores from Lindsey Carson and Ron Sutter at 14:36. Lindsey Carson's first point in the series. Third period, it's Claude Lemieux that salts it away from Walter and Robinson in 1926. Hayward, 24 saves on 26 shots for Montreal. Hextall, 25 saves on 30 shots for Philadelphia. So we go into Game 6, and as I said, I showed you guys at the start of this. This is the thing. Some of these series, there's these iconic moments, and that's an iconic moment. Well, yes, that Stanley Cup final was great. There's a video on this channel for the Stanley Cup champion Edmonton Oilers from 1987. There's a video on the finalists, which was the 1987 Philadelphia Flyers, and on how they got there and all that. This series, to me, was the most fascinating series in those playoffs, even though it didn't go 7. So coming out of all of that fighting in Montreal, where during the fighting, Montreal fans start chanting, "Go Habs, go!" And I'm thinking, this is a brawl. Who's chanting "Go Team, go" during a brawl? But okay, all right, okay. I guess you guys don't have time to work on a chant when it's a brawl out of nowhere. So McPhee scores in the first minute from Naslund and Skrudlin at 59 seconds, which had to energize Montreal. Like, okay, we get in this big fight at home. Lemieux gets Philadelphia off their game, and we've got a goal behind Hextall already. Shorthanded goal then for Dave Poulin from Crossman and Prop at 14 minutes and 34 seconds. You'd have to ask Poulin what his role was during that brawl. I didn't necessarily see him in all of that sea of bodies out there fighting with each other. He, of course, is on TSN now. Larry Robinson then scores from Ryan Walter at 19:56, and it's 2-1 Montreal after one. Then, in the second period, 7 minutes into the second period, it's a power play goal by Bobby Smith from Naslund and Robinson. So it's 7 minutes of the second period. This looks like it's done. It is 3-1 for the Montreal Canadiens. The big brawl, the home crowd, everybody's into it. And the hated Philadelphia Flyers are down. They were reviled at that time. Think about it this way. As much as people don't like the Boston Bruins right now, that's how popular the Flyers were with opposing fans then. Sinisalo eats into the lead from Mellanby and Marsh. Brad Marsh on the board at 7:49. And then Mellanby scores from Crossman at 9:40. So they go from having a lead of 3-1 at 7 minutes to being in a tie game 2 minutes and 40 seconds later. And once Philadelphia gets that close, well, in the third period, it's Rick Tocchet. And who gets the assist? Brian Propp at 7 minutes and 11 seconds. And they ride it home from there. Hextall, hero in the city of Philadelphia as they move on to the Stanley Cup Finals with this rookie goaltender. 29 saves on 32 shots for Hextall. Hayward saves 27 out of 31 in the loss. And yeah, Hayward was the starter for this series. I don't know that having Patrick Roy in would have changed things. Look, he had this one game here, and he saved 16 out of 20 shots. So it's bizarre that he lost his job to Hayward during that playoffs, but he was out on the ice for the brawl, so that's important too. We know what Patrick Roy can do during a brawl, right? Am I right, Detroit fans? So yeah, Montreal lose this one in 6, and it was a pretty intense, insane series. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and the 80s were a pretty crazy time where we saw goals. The goals weren't as crazy in this series. You got 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, and this game had 9. So still a lot more scoring than we see in most series now, but not as crazy as the Oilers series or even some of the Islanders series that we would see back then. So again, let me know your thoughts. Do hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.